What's up, guys? Happy Friday. Hope all you guys are having a awesome week so far. And by the way, thank you all for the happy birthday wishes. I'm not going to really want to waste any time, guys. As you guys know, I have had a really long time, could not wait for this interview. Um, this person that is joining me is a good friend of mine, a really good coworker of mine that we had, and all that. So I'm just going to get it right to it. My special guest today for Positive Time with Ryan, my dear friend and former coworker, Delaney. Delaney, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, excited to be here, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, as you guys know, some of you know a little bit about Delaney from the past couple of episodes I've told you guys. Some of them don't know about you, really, Delaney. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Ryan said, my name's Delaney. I know Ryan from the Boys and Girls Club. He's a great friend and coworker of mine too. So super excited that I get to be here. I am a mental health therapist. I have 3 pets. I have a dog and 2 cats. So it's crazy in my house sometimes, but I love being a
Uh,
pet mom.
uh,
And I live in Coeur d'Alene, so that's just a couple things about me.
okay, and all that. But yes, guys, as you guys know, had to wear the Boys and Girls Club hoodie for the interview. So Delaney, we're going to get right into the questions. Of course, question one. Um, you said a little bit about yourself, but growing up, what was your favorite school subject in school?
It was always reading and English, which just like makes so much sense with who I am now because I'm a big
Mm-hmm.
reader. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
fun to think like, yeah, I always was like that as a kid. And I think it's because I've always been kind of creative. So I liked that I could kind of write my own stories and kind of get in my
Oh,
imagination when I was reading books. So that was always my favorite.
okay. Is there like so? I mean, like you said, reading and English. What is there anything else most particular about those two subjects other than what you said that you liked about it?
It was always just fun to like find new series and like different writing styles. And I would like once I would find a book that was part of a series, I'd be hooked and I'd want to like keep reading all the stories. So that was always fun too.
Uh, I love hearing that. And then what would you like to do growing up outside of school? Like when you didn't have to go to school, anything outside of school you liked?
Um, Besides reading, I I played soccer most of my life, so I would spend a lot of time like soccer practice and games. Um, my family had a boat, well, we still do, but we had a boat growing up, and so like over the summer, I would love to go swimming. I would go for runs sometimes. Like Coeur d'Alene is so beautiful, so I would love to
Oh
like
yeah.
run around the lake. Really anything like arts and craftsy. Like growing up, I was a big
Uh,
scrapbooker too. Yeah, anything creative.
Uh, I love hearing that. And yeah, Delaney did a lot of that at the Boys and Girls Club. I remember good times on that.
Yep.
So,
You know, I would love it if I had the craft room or once I had the chill
oh
room, all I
yeah,
wanted to
the
do was
chill
creative
room, the
things.
kids were right
You
there.
you do know that.
Yeah, yeah, good
Yeah.
memories, great memories actually.
Yeah. For sure.
And then, is there? So when I ask this, like, what is your like all time like from growing up to now? What would be your all time favorite song?
You know, I had to like kind of think hard about that one because I've had like different in different phases of my life, I've had different favorite songs. And if you asked
Right.
me as a kid, I would say anything Hillary Duff. I don't know if you remember that,
Okay.
Ryan, but I would always have little like Lizzie McGuire things on my staff passes, like
Oh, I remember it. Yeah, I
anything by
remember it.
her growing up. But I think more recently, one of my all-time favorite songs, it's called Another Story. It's by The
Okay.
Head and the Heart. And when I
Okay.
listen to that song, it just reminds me like the world is beautiful. Like even if it doesn't feel like it, the world is a beautiful place. And that song reminds me of that.
Uh, I love hearing that, and I didn't know that about you. We've known each other way too long, so
Yeah.
it's funny. I mean, literally, it's funny how you learn about a person, even like
Right,
all the
right.
time down the road.
Yeah.
Uh, well, you said right off the get go, you're a big reader. You read a lot of books. You
Yeah.
like writing your own stories, which I find extremely awesome. But what would your all time favorite book be?
I have a couple.
All right,
I'll
I'm all for
of
it.
course, right? I'll give you a fiction and a nonfiction. So, a nonfiction one I love is called Garden City by
Okay,
John Mark Comer, and
okay.
it's all about like how we find our identity in God and not what we do in a job, and that like we're so much more than that, and that we're like meant to rest and we're meant to like find our who we are outside of like just what we do. That book really changed my life in perspective of work and how I view myself. But then another book that I love is called This Tender Land, and it's like a historical fiction about these young boys who are like getting out of this like terrible like group home type of situation, and it's about
Mm-hmm.
them kind of like finding their selves as they're like re-exploring the world.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
so
I
many
mean,
favorites,
I
but those
haven't
are a
heard.
couple that stand out.
Well, I'll have to check those out. I've never heard those two titles before. I'll have to check them out
Yeah, they're great ones.
and all that. So, oh, so now we go from all-time favorite song to all-time favorite book. Now, we hear in life a lot of quotes. We hear like the simple quotes, never give up, follow your dreams. But if there's any particular quote that would be your favorite or one that you live by day to day, what would it be?
This might sound silly, but my first quote that comes to my mind is actually from Winnie the Pooh. I love Winnie the Pooh. I always have.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. I think it's Pooh who says it, but it's the quote says, "How lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard."
Aww.
And that's something that sticks out to me because it just reminds me that like it's all about perspective. Like,
Right.
we could choose to be like who's saying like sad about having to say goodbye to somebody, but when we take it from a perspective of like, no, I'm so lucky that I have people in my life who I love so much. It's
Right.
just like a silly, cute little quote, but it helps me to like fix my mindset.
Oh. Well, I mean, well, don't feel embarrassed because like there's a TV show, a kids TV show called Clifford the Big Red Dog. I love the theme song and I love
Yeah.
the movie. So
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're never too old to like go from your like little kid age and like still love it and all that.
Yeah.
And I get called out
Yeah.
for it all the time. So,
We're in that
but
together. We can just own the fact that we love a cartoon.
yeah, yeah, Winnie the Pooh stuff from like a first grader age in kindergarten, and we still
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
But
We
I
should never have
mean,
to not love it.
that's right. You're never too old and all that. I mean,
Exactly.
that's it.
Exactly.
That's why adults really need to learn more. Is that you're not too old to
Yes.
like love Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
well, now we go from the quote, your favorite quote, and all that. Now, this is a tough question for a lot of people I ask on a day-to-day basis. But what advice, if you could go back to your younger self, look at your younger self, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Mm, it's a good question. I think number one, like to just always be like who you want to be and to
Right,
not be
absolutely.
like swayed by the people around you and like staying
Mhm.
genuine and authentic to who you are. But honestly, with that too, like I wish that I could look at my younger self and just tell her like like people are going to let you down. Things are going to disappoint you in life, but like God is
Yeah.
the one constant. And I mean I had parents who told me that growing up, but I wish that I could look at myself and like really like let her know that,
Right,
because
yeah.
I think any hurts that I've had in life, if I had really known that and really felt that, it would have been like, okay, that would have been good for me to know. So, yeah, I think just knowing that disappointment is going to be normal, but God is a constant in my life, and that because of that, like I can just always be myself and not try and be anything else that anybody might ever want me to be.
Yeah. Well, I love that. That's really a quote that like a lot of people need to hear. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that one quote that you hear it, you think about it, you forget it, but it really needs to be told a lot, and
yeah.
that's a great quote. I mean, maybe we
Thanks.
need to like put it in the book, put it in the record that Delaney wrote this quote, and it's by Delaney.
Yeah.
1,000%, 1,000%. But man. So, as you said, you studied a little, like I said at the beginning and all that, and in past episodes. Delaney, while she was a coworker of mine and a friend, she went to Boise State University. Great college, great university, great programs. What did you study at Boise State? Oh,
Yeah. I got my bachelor's in psychology and then my master's in social work.
okay. So,
Yeah.
is there anything like any reason particular you went for that or you studied that? Like, why did you? Everybody goes to college to study something they're passionate about. So, what
Yeah.
made you want to study that?
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to be in some sort of like helping profession.
Mm-hmm.
I originally thought maybe nursing, and I actually started out at Boise State in nursing major and then started doing like some labs. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I realize I don't have the stomach to like do gross things. So
Mm-hmm.
not this kind of helping profession. So then I started thinking like what else could I do that would allow me to help people? And I've always thought the brain was so fascinating. And so that's why I originally went for psychology is I was like, okay, it's pretty broad. I'll have a lot of options within that. And then
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what caused me to choose social work as well. Cause I started thinking like maybe I go into counseling and maybe I do this or that, but I went with the social work degree because there's lots of options within that. Like you can work in a hospital, you can work in a school, you can work
Right.
for a mental health agency. There's so many different options. And so I liked that it gave me, yeah, many choices of how to help people.
And well,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, we need a lot more people these days in psychology and social work, and people would like that's what people don't realize is they think that we have all that, but when that's like really really needed and all that. So I love that story. I love it 1,000%. So now we go from what did you study? Now we go to the Boys and Girls Club. As many of you know, I've been
Yeah.
very vocal about my time there. It's a really great job. I would highly recommend to anybody that wants to work with kids. You work there. It's a great
Definitely.
place to work. Great place to have
Yeah.
coworkers, by the way, in case you don't know. But
Yeah.
I mean,
You make forever friends that you're friends with
yeah,
years
yeah,
later.
friends. I mean, Delaney did a lot. She was she was the showroom coordinator at that point. I was from the games room, ed center, you name it. But how does working at the Boys and Girls Club? How does that help you in your job profession today?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it was my first experience ever working with kids. So just generally speaking, like it showed me how much I love working with kids and
Okay.
how rewarding it is to help people, especially, at the Boys and Girls Club, you're getting lots of kiddos with different home lives and
Mm-hmm.
different backgrounds. And I was able to learn like, okay, even when it's really hard and difficult, like it's so rewarding to be able to help kids that are coming from difficult situations.
Yeah.
Um, but I definitely think one of the biggest things kind of on that note that the job taught me was patience.
Oh yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
learn like if I'm not patient with a kiddo or even with myself, if I'm getting a little bit frustrated by a situation, like I can't be a good helper. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to like be patient and keep myself calm in stress in order to like be who the kids I'm working with need me to be.
Ah man, that's great. I did not know that was your first time working with kids. I,
Yeah.
I did not know. I mean, you started just before I did, like within a month or a couple
Uh-huh.
weeks. And when I
Yeah.
went to the Boys and Girls Club, that was my fourth job working with kids and all that. But I did not know,
Oh,
like, I find that surprising that that was your first time working
no.
with kids. I really do.
Yeah, they kind of just gave me a shot. They're like, she doesn't have experience, but we like her. And I'm like, I'm so
Yeah,
grateful they did because it
yeah,
opened up so many doors in the future for me.
yeah. Again, guys, if you don't know how rewarding the Boys and Girls Club is, I mean, just even volunteering. If you guys want to volunteer, there's
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
volunteer opportunities, but
totally.
um, and all that. And if you want to work there during the summer, it's even better because you could go outside more and not.
So fun. So many
Yeah,
field trips. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
the
yeah.
summer's the
I
best.
mean, and I remember, just to say this, Delaney and I were working with the third and fourth grade group one summer, and we ended up going, I think it was like a Nerf daunting thing.
Oh
I remember that. And Delaney was on that field trip, but every field trip they have to have a boy, a male staff, and a female staff. And Delaney was the leader for that group, and she came up to me and she's like, "Hey Ryan, you want to go?" And I didn't even know where it was. I didn't even ask, and I ended up bonking my head on the roof and bleeding a little bit. But I mean, but again,
yeah,
guys,
that's right. Oh my gosh.
I know. Well, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell the kids.
Oh.
And but I had kids looking at me like they could see it coming out. But I mean, guys, I could go on and
What
on.
a time. Oh.
Yeah. But again, guys, if you guys need any of you guys looking for a job for the summer, Boys and Girls Club is definitely a place to be. You guys would love it. A lot of field trips in the summer, like Delaney said. So
Yep.
you need to get out of the club more often and go on field trips. But uh so, well, like you said, you are a mental health therapist and a social worker, and there's a lot of things in that profession that is so rewarding. What is your favorite thing about that job that you have now?
Mm. I just find it honestly like a one of the biggest honors of my life to be like a safe place for people's stories. Like
Hmm.
I hear so many
Absolutely.
different things and I just like I couldn't love it more to get to be that space for somebody and I
Hmm.
just I'll never take it lightly that it's such an honor to be the person that people like can feel comfortable opening up to and processing like really big things with. So that's
Hmm.
definitely my favorite part of the job.
Uh, well, I mean, I could definitely see you doing that. I mean, first time working with kids and someone's that patient that not a lot of people who jump into that profession are just automatically patient. So, but
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I love it. So now everybody wants to know this one question. I actually didn't think of it. I had a random subscriber just send me it. When it comes to advice, what advice would you give the audience? And I mean, this could be anything. This could be
Yeah.
life advice, work advice. But like, if you could have a simple advice for the audience, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, this feels very like therapist of me, but really, it is a big piece of advice I would give is that, like, it really is all about perspective. Like life is never going to be 100% good and it's never going to be
Yeah.
100% bad either.
Oh
Like
yeah.
even when we're going through hard things, like there's always little like glimmers of hope to look for and I think my advice would be that like we have to feel all of those things, like acknowledge the hurt and the disappointment of life, but
Yeah.
also like look for those little glimmers of hope and joy that remind you that life is beautiful and worth living. And I think when we acknowledge all of the feelings, it just allows us to be very human.
Well, I mean, that's great. I mean, and then following up on that, I mean, that was phenomenal advice to the audience. Like when it comes to, and I had to write this down because if I didn't, I would forget it. When it comes to like going into school or work and all that, like how, because when you go into, especially when you're like a college kid, a high school kid, you got your school life, you got school problems, you got your personal problems, and all that. And when you bundle it up, it's hard to go into the work and just leave it at the door. So
Totally.
when it comes to someone that has a job and they're in school, what advice would you give them, like when stuff is not going well?
That's a good question because it is really hard to do. And like
Yes.
when we're given like whether it's school or a job, like some important task in front of us, like we want to be able to do it well, and it can be
Yeah.
really hard. And I think it's I guess I would say number one, like give yourself patience as you're learning to do that. Like it's a
Yeah.
skill that you learn over time. Like it gets easier and easier for me as I've been more in the field to like be patient with yourself as you're figuring out how to kind of like put stuff to the side for a little bit. Like it's almost like you just like
Yeah.
put it in a box and then you set it to the side and you're like, okay, I'll open up that box later. It's not that I'm going to ignore that forever, but I'm going to come
Yeah.
back to it so that I can like focus on what's in front of me right now. But like utilizing support people and like talking through the things that are going on, because if all you're ever doing is bottling it up, like you said, Ryan, like it's going to stay there and it's going to be hard. And so when you're done with school or work for the day or whatever it is, like talk to somebody and talk it
Mhm.
out with someone, or do something that helps you to really stress. Like for me, that's working out. If I'm really stressed after a work day, I love to go for a run or like go to a spin class and like get the stress out of my body. Like do something that
Yes.
helps you to really sit and don't just keep it bottled up.
Well, I mean, that's great. That's advice that everybody has to go through. Everybody needs to really hear that. I mean,
Yeah.
I could go literally, guys. And I said this, I think a week ago when I was talking about this upcoming interview. I said that Delaney is going to be able to read me like a book, and she read me like a book. I mean, I could walk in the door and I could smile at someone, and she would pull me inside and say, "Okay, what's wrong?" and all that.
uh
But so, but literally, guys, that what Delaney just said is really good. I mean, it doesn't just go into people who are like school student and working. It goes to people who are like in their like 40s. Really that advice you need to hear. I mean, because everybody has their personal life and their work life, and it's not easy to leave personal stuff at the door. So I mean that was great advice, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a
So
great question, Ryan.
the next question is pretty interesting. I had to ask, but you're a mental health therapist now. As I said, where do you see yourself 5 years down the road? And this could be anything. I mean, this could be
Yeah.
in work, life, anything.
What's so exciting is that because I'm in like a new season of having just moved back home, like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the possibilities are like endless. Like I could be doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, and I would be so happy with that. I
Yeah, yeah,
could, maybe have an in-person job and not be working from home. I would love to be, on the way to like starting a family in 5 years, but who
yeah,
knows?
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
supposed to
I mean,
be on my own a little longer. Who
yeah.
knows? So I really am just so open. Like I know I'll be in Coeur d'Alene. I will probably still be with my same job because I love the life that it allows me to have. But yeah, not to be vague, but really that's how I feel. I feel like I'm just open to whatever's going to come.
I
Because
love that because
I just believe that me following what I felt like I was supposed to do and moving back home to Coeur d'Alene, I feel like it's going
mhm,
to allow whatever's supposed to happen to happen.
fall into place. Yeah, and
Yeah.
ah, man. Well, I mean, I had to ask you that because I wanted to hear that answer from you. I wanted to hear what is she going. How is she going to say it? What is she going to say? So this next these are actually questions. The next couple were not what I sent you, but they
That's
were
okay.
literally asked me this morning. So I do apologize.
Okay, no
So
worries.
this one is, and it's kind of it's tough in a lot of ways. I had a lot of people really wanting me to ask this. A lot of kids have rough patches in life. We all do, actually. I should
Hmm.
not say some. Every kid has rough patches in life.
Yeah.
Some kids go down bad roads. Some kids make mistakes. And the one thing I say about mistakes with kids is it's a learning experience. There is a
Yeah.
reason that they did this, but when it comes to a kid like getting arrested, and it doesn't matter what they got arrested for, what would your advice be for them?
I would say that it does not define them.
Yeah.
Like, I think when somebody goes to something like that, it can be really easy to like make it their who they are, either
Hmm.
intentionally or not intentionally. And then if that becomes like if you take in like, okay, I'm a bad person because I was
Yeah.
arrested, then like it's going to be hard for you to see anything in the world that shows you that you're not a bad person. Like it can be easy to just keep making choices and to stay on that path because you've convinced yourself like that's who you are and that's how it's always going to be. And so I would say my advice is to know that it doesn't define you and that there's like more to life than
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and it doesn't have to be this like statement on your life of, how you're always going to be.
I love that. And then, as you guys know my crazy life story. And if you don't know my crazy life story, there is a link down below. But the one thing, and I say this to a lot of cops on the street, I say it to more cops than I say it to regular people that are not in law enforcement. But a lot of police have actually say they know how to deal with mental health calls, but but a lot of people also say they really do not, because if you could give a cop advice to someone in mental health, what would that be like on how to handle it?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's hard to say, like, generally speaking, if they know how to handle it or not. I think it
Yeah.
depends on that person. But I think I would just say, like, if they're in those moments and they're responding to those like crisis situations,
Hmm.
like look at the person, like don't look at the situation, like don't just try and solve the situation, but like look at the person and
Hmm.
like try and
Absolutely.
connect with them as a human and like make them just feel seen and known in that moment. Because when we are in those like crisis moments of our mental health, like a lot of it is what it comes down to is like we don't feel seen or loved. And so that would be my advice to someone in law enforcement, is to really look at that person and connect with them so that they can feel seen and known.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what, that's advice I'm gonna have to, the next cop I'm gonna see on the street, I'm gonna just give that advice to him. I mean, that is literally great advice. So I gotta like it. But yeah, and then someone also asked me, and actually this was not a someone, this is someone that you and I both know really well. Shout out Henley for the question. But if you
Ah.
Yes, Henley found out. I had to tell. I told Sage, I told Donisha, I told Henley, I told I told Amanda, I told a lot of whom are actually
Aw.
watching. So yeah, but
Aw.
so if there's anybody that is wanting to be at the Boys and Girls Club and they have well, let's just say if they have an interest in working there, what would the best advice be for that you could give them?
Hmm. I would say like take it as like a learning experience and know that you can learn, but at the same time, like just have fun and like don't be
Yeah,
too serious. Like let
yeah.
yourself be like silly and let yourself have fun with the kids. Like those were the best days when we were like laughing with the kids and just being like childlike with them. Like I think it creates such special opportunities to like have fun with them and for them to really like look up to you as a staff. So like take it seriously in the sense that you can learn from it and it can, be a good like stepping stone in a career, but also like don't take it too seriously and just have fun.
Yes, yeah. I think fun comes before the serious on that one, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean, well, I mean, because, and I got to go down memory lane one more time on this. Delaney and
I
I,
love it.
we weren't together for so long. We saw a lot of situations together. We saw each other get pushed by kids to the limit at times. But you got to understand, guys, working
We
at the
saw
Boys and
some
Girls Club.
crazy stuff. We saw good and bad
Yeah.
days in each other. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
we went through it
Oh yeah.
together.
I mean, I go to the Boys and Girls Club, guys, and this is what's really, really good about it. The quote about the Boys and Girls Club is that great future start here, and I truly, truly do believe that. But I think, guys, if you ever want to work at the Boys and Girls Club, you're going to work with kids that really will make you better as a human. And I bet you
Yeah,
could say that. I mean,
definitely.
they push you, but they make you better at your job.
Yes, that's a great point, Ryan. That's so true.
So, but now going to the next question. Out of You went on 1,000 field trips at the Boys and Girls Club. I can't count them all. What do you have any particular field trip that you went on at the Boys and Girls Club that was your favorite?
Ooh. Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean,
I
over the
mean,
summer, I always loved anything outside. Like, I just wanted to be
right,
in the sun. So, like, I loved any
right,
field
yeah,
trips outside. Like, so the park ones were fun.
yeah.
Um, uh, oh my gosh, I
Oh,
feel like I'm blanking on all the options. Nerf sticks out to me just because it was like memorable. Not my
it
favorite
was,
type of
yeah.
activity, but like we were talking about, very memorable.
Oh, that was,
Um,
yeah.
Honestly, they were all fun in different ways, but like I just loved being outside. I would probably say any outside field trip.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think it was you. I think it was you and I actually that were on this one. We went to a pool in Nampa, which, by the way, that's like a 45-minute
Mm,
drive from where our club's at, that Delaney and I were at. And we ended up back a little later than expected. We missed afternoon snack. And it's a funny story, guys, but it's also not when you got kids on the bus that want snacks. So, um,
yeah.
but
Oh.
So now this is the big question. What is next for Delaney?
Hmm. I feel like I kind of said this when I was saying like I just moved here, but I feel like I had so many like big things that I was working towards
Mm-hmm.
that right now I'm actually enjoying not having like a okay, I know this is coming. Like I'm actually really enjoying just having a season of like slowing down a little bit
Mm-hmm.
because, I was getting ready to move and then like shortly after I moved, I took a big board exam and that was my next step and there's been all of these like next things and so there's no like major like none of those kind of milestones I'm working towards at this point, which actually feels really nice. But just in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like fun things, I'm like doing some traveling this year. Um, I am in a wedding in April, and then in May, I'm gonna like check off a big bucket list item and go to Banff in Canada.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, those are like some fun things that are coming up next.
okay, well, and that's great. I mean, that makes it even better that you don't have to look at, oh, I have this coming up, or I mean you do
Yeah,
you have it. I mean vacation,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
not like work stuff like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And then that just brought me up another question. So during the time Delaney and I were at the club together, Delaney, you went to Japan. Remember
I
that?
did, yeah.
And all that. So can you tell
Good
us a
memory.
little bit about your experience there? Besides the long flight.
Yeah. Yeah, very long flight. So
Yeah.
this is a cool thing. My family, we ran an exchange student program when I was
Hmm.
growing up for about 10 years. And
Okay.
yeah, that's the thing Ryan and I kind of in common too, that we've both hosted students. So that's fun. But because we ran that program for so long, they paid for us to go out there. So we got a free trip out there. So that was amazing and such a blessing. We spent half the time in Tokyo and then half the time in just the tiny little village where the students came from. And
Okay.
it was really cool to get to see like kind of both sides of the country, like the hustle and bustle of the big city and then just like the slow stillness of a little village. And so that was really cool, but overall it was just a big culture shock. Like I've been to Europe because I have family in Europe, but it's like they live,
Right.
I mean not entirely, but they live more similar to us um than Japan. So it's like you're the minority when you're in an Asian country and like that's a culture shock in terms of food and not being able to communicate as easily because everybody in Europe speaks English. So big culture shock, but that was a good growing experience too.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
I'll never forget that because I asked you when you came back to work. I'm like, where were you the past 2 weeks? I'm like, you were gone too. I actually got a panic attack thinking that
Oh,
something happened, but
oh,
yeah, I
and I'm like,
remember you telling
Japan.
me,
You're like,
Ryan, I'm
whoa.
fine. I was in Japan, but
Yeah.
ah, So, and I mean, you know that my mom and I do exchange students and all that,
Yeah,
and we love it. I mean, it's really, guys. It's if you guys don't understand what an exchange student program is like, highly recommend you look into it. It's a rewarding experience. In a lot of ways,
definitely.
you learn about their culture and they learn about yours.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but well, guys, right there, that is my Friday fun time interview with Delaney. Delaney, as always, thank you so much for taking
It
your
was
time
so
on a
great to be
Friday.
here. So fun to see you and walk down memory lane together.
Oh yeah, and all that. But as always, guys, if you like the video, you know what to do. Hit a drop on that thumbs up and that like. And then one more announcement regarding the channel. Next month will be February. A week from tomorrow, actually, will be February. We will be diving into our February topic, and that will be Teen Violence Dating Awareness Month. So we will begin
That's
that
awesome, Ryan.
1 week from tomorrow. All right, guys. As always, have a safe rest of your Friday. Happy Friday. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again, Delaney, so very much.
So happy to be here, of course.
All right.
Bye,
All right,
everyone.
guys.